All right, welcome everybody to our very special edition of WAS Zero Waste Task Force meeting for July. Our topic tonight is a really important one, which is our Westchester County Upon Request Law relaunch. If you are just joining, feel free to use the chat to share your name and your location, and if you're with an organization, the name of your org. And we're sharing what is your favorite upon request law compliant business? So WAS stands for Westchester Alliance for Sustainable Solutions, and we are a coalition of organizations and community members from across Westchester County working to move the county to zero waste and close the Wheelabrator Westchester trash incinerator that burns all of our garbage here in the environmental justice community of Peekskill. But tonight, we are many, many organizations strong coming together for a special effort to relaunch our county's upon request law. So if you've not heard of it, it is also known as a skip the stuff law, meaning businesses, restaurants shouldn't be giving us gobs of, packets and straws and spoons and all of those things. So I want to give a special thanks to Beyond Plastics, both the national organization that's represented here tonight by Judith Inc., but also our local org, the co-chairs of which are on the call tonight, are Beyond Plastics Lower Westchester that helped us to nucleate this effort, the City of Peekskill Conservation Advisory Council, Bedford 2030, the Climate Reality Project Westchester chapter, Green Ossining, Mothers Out Front, multiple chapters, Lower Westchester, Rivertowns, Northern Westchester, Sustainable Westchester as well. We've all been working for several weeks now to try and come together to sort of relaunch and rejuvenate public awareness of our upon request law. So what we are going to be covering tonight, this is our agenda. So right now we're doing the welcome, and then we will hear from Judith Inc., president of Beyond Plastics, about why these kinds of skip the stuff laws are so important. Then we will hear from legislator Erica Pierce, who represents District 2 and was the champion who brought this law to pass, to go through basically the basics of the upon request law in Westchester County. What does it actually say? Then I'm going to pass it off to Liz Silverstein, the co-chair of Beyond Plastics Lower Westchester, to talk and lay out how you can work with us to promote awareness of and compliance with our local upon request law. And then, as per usual, we're going to switch over to community discussion and Q&A, where we'll hopefully spend the bulk of our time, and we will close out by taking action collectively. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Judith Inc. from Beyond Plastics can talk to us about why these laws are so important. Thank you, Judith, for being on tonight.
Oh, Courtney, thanks for having me. I know some of you on this Zoom, and you're like the New York Knicks of the environmental movement in Westchester County. So congrats on your championship of getting this bill passed. But as we know, passing the bill is sometimes the easy part. So I'm so impressed that you're now focused on making sure that the law is enforced and that there's fair compliance. I love Liz Silverstein and Camila Calhoun with Beyond Plastics Southern Westchester. Jump in with them if you're not already. And I really worship Courtney Williams, who has done so much to protect public health and the environment in Westchester. It's the only time I support cloning. We need to clone Courtney and everyone in WAS doing really great work. So thanks for turning out tonight. I love this topic. If you're not familiar with Beyond Plastics, go to our website, beyondplastics.org. It's riveting. I will share some information at the end in terms of what's hot on our website today. But, Beyond Plastics was formed about 6 or 7 years ago. I had just wrapped up my tenure as EPA Region 2 Regional Administrator. I was appointed by President Obama to EPA when the agency actually was committed to protecting public health and the environment. We all know that's a different scene right now. And while I was working at EPA, I really paid more and more attention to plastics. And I was concerned that there was not enough public focus and policy focus. So that's why I formed Beyond Plastics. We're a nonprofit. We've grown from one staff to about 15. We actually have two job openings right now on our website, one for a senior fundraising person and then a digital director. So if you want to come work for us, go look at that website. What we can promise you is you will be underpaid and overworked, and you'll have a ball. It's the best job ever working for Beyond Plastics. So plastics has so many different elements to it. Plastics affects our rivers and our ocean. We are turning our ocean into a watery landfill. Plastics is an environmental justice issue. It's very much a health issue. Microplastics have been found in all of our major organs, in our bloodstream, which carries microplastics throughout our body, in our kidneys, our liver, our lungs, the human placenta, breast milk, testicles. Two recent studies identified microplastics in arteries in our necks attaching to plaque and increasing our risk of heart attack, stroke, premature death. And also, microplastics, unfortunately, have crossed the blood-brain barrier and can affect Alzheimer's disease and greater chance of neurological damage. Microplastics is little tiny pieces of plastic, 5 millimeters or less, and then even smaller than that is nanoplastics. If you have Netflix, you should watch the movie The Plastic Detox. I was an advisor on the movie. It mostly deals with chemicals in plastics and how it affects reproduction. 16,000 different chemicals are used to make plastic. And unfortunately, plastics recycling has been a real failure. Keep recycling your paper, metal, glass, cardboard. For goodness sakes, compost your yard waste and your food waste. But plastics recycling doesn't work because there are too many different types of plastics, too many different chemicals, too many different colors, and they can't be recycled together. Plastics is also a climate change issue. Historically, plastics were made from chemicals and oil. Now, chemicals and ethane, a byproduct of fracking. Today is Exhibit A on the climate crisis. We've got high heat and we have terrible air quality from Canadian wildfires. When forests are dry, they burn hot. They're hard to put it out. And I want to make a specific proposal because I was thinking all day. I live in upstate New York near the Vermont border, and I teach at Bennington College. And air quality today is really bad up here. But I kept thinking about people living in the shadow of the Peekskill garbage incinerator or the Poughkeepsie incinerator or the Hudson Falls incinerator. And I want to make a very specific proposal for county legislators who are on this Zoom tonight. I respectfully
One of the
request
colleges in Bennington.
that you draft a county bill that would require the Peekskill incinerator to be shut down on days where we have air quality health advisories issued by the DEC or the EPA, which happened today. The county is going to have to plan accordingly because we're going to have more and more of these air quality days that are not healthy to breathe. And so they need to make plans to have alternative ways to deal with all the trash that's coming in and burning not occurring on days like today. So the plastics issue is big. I can't really cover it in 5 minutes, but you should really buy my book, which is very discreetly displayed over my shoulder. It's called The Problem with Plastic. Try to get your library to buy it so people in your community can read the book. And we deal with the production, use and disposal of plastics, because from an environmental justice perspective, communities are poisoned where plastic is being manufactured. And then when it comes to disposal, because the recycling rate is so low, plastics go to incinerators and landfills, often cited in environmental justice communities such as Peekskill. So, what do we do with this giant issue? We kind of have to chop it up into manageable pieces. And that's why I'm so impressed that Westchester County passed a county skip the stuff law back in 2023, but at the same time concerned that there's not been a more comprehensive effort to make sure that every single restaurant, every single one, needs to be complying with the law. This law saves restaurants money. And when you talk to people who own or manage restaurants, suggest to them that they look at their bookkeeping records and how much money they are spending to purchase single-use utensils, condiments, straws, napkins, and let them understand that if they can decrease that, they will save money. Local taxpayers will save money because you're going to have less litter and also fewer clogged storm drains. Customers will have less junk in their house. We all have that drawer in our kitchen where we put um, utensils and napkins and things we really don't want, but somehow enter our home. And there are enormous health benefits from not eating food, especially hot food, from plastic utensils or plastic straws or having condiments in plastic. So, skip the stuff means you can still get the stuff, but you have to proactively request it. So, the default is you don't get it. But if you really want the straw, the plastic utensils, etc., all you have to do is ask for it. Dutchess County recently adopted a similar law. We've had skip the stuff on the books at the state level in Washington State and California since 2022. Washington, D.C. has had it for a couple years. And if you have time, Google the John Oliver segment on enforcing skip the stuff in Washington, D.C. It's not only factual, but it is hysterical. I worked with environmentalists in New Jersey. It was led by Clean Water Action in New Jersey. They just passed Skip the Stuff a few months ago. And what was interesting is the state acted after 53 municipalities adopted this law in New Jersey. I will tell you at the state level, we don't have it yet. Legislation is introduced by Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal, Assemblymember Rebecca Cassay. I don't remember the Senate sponsors, but my sense is if we can get more focus on this at the local level, it might prompt the state to act. And then finally, New York City adopted Skip the stuff in February of 2023. And I just want to share a quick story. I was in Brooklyn last year visiting my son, because who among us does not have a grown adult child living in Brooklyn? And we went to a local restaurant and got takeout. I like walking there and then walking back with it. And we're walking back, and I'm like, I yelled to my son, "Oh no, I forgot to say no utensils and no straws." And he's like, Mom, calm down. Those are the things I get upset about. And we get back to the apartment, and there were no utensils and no napkins and no straws. I almost cried. The law is working. Like, we all have a lot to remember. And if we don't have to remember to say no straws, no utensils, the law works. So here's the deal with Westchester. Enforcement is handled by the Department of Environmental Facilities and the Department of Health. They need to do better, right? You all, as advocates and volunteers, will help with enforcement. You'll talk to restaurant owners and managers, but laws work when they get enforced. So I know the Department of Health is in charge of signage. They're in restaurants a lot. They have a punch list of everything they're looking at, so we don't get sick from food safety problems, add compliance to your punch list and work closely with the Department of Environmental Facilities. First offense, just talk to the owner and make sure there's compliance. And then if they still are not complying with the law, that's when fines and penalties are assessed. Do not give a hard time to low-wage workers. They are not the ones that are making this decision. They need training and support, and that comes from the managers and the owners. So I will try to respect time here. Go to beyondplastics.org. I teach a class on Zoom. Some of you have taken it, called Beyond Plastics. It's offered through Bennington College. If you need academic credit, you can take the class. If you are a lifelong learner and you want to audit the class, you are welcome to do that. The first class is Wednesday, September 9th. It's 7 consecutive Wednesday evenings. If you want to audit it, it's $100, a bargain. Registration information is on beyondplastics.org. And then second, we are focusing on a new problem that we've identified, which is Starbucks using number 5 polypropylene cold drink cups and telling the public that the cold cups get recycled and they don't. So there's a report about Starbucks on our website, and we're doing a Starbucks Week of Action the week of September 28th. We would love to partner with your organizations to show up at your local Starbucks and urge them to do better on plastics. So thanks again for organizing this, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much, Judith, for really kind of giving the national and statewide perspective on this and bringing up those health concerns. As many of you know, I'm a cancer researcher by training, so the health is really a main motivator. Obviously, it's bad for our planet and the climate too, but may we all live to see the future. If we're all polluted and full of microplastics, it's going to be harder to do. So with that, I would like to welcome County Legislator Erica Pierce, who is the champion of this law, got this law passed, and is a real excellent partner in our efforts to reduce waste countywide and to get notice and the awareness of this law out to our local businesses. So Legislator Pierce, take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm a little gobsmacked to be following Judith. I think probably everybody on this call would feel similarly gobsmacked to be following Judith. I actually got to meet her in person in a cafe in Mount Kisco, Mimi. She was there meeting with Pete Harcum, and I ran over going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But tried not to interrupt their discussion too very much. So Judith, I want to say thank you for all of your incredibly hard work. We have many people in common, I know, that are collaborators with you, and I stay in awe. So thank you for that. And yes, we also share a Brooklyn child. Mine is in Bushwick. And so, there's another great thing. You mentioned the drawer full of stuff. In my household, it went eventually well beyond a drawer. My husband told me I had a major problem. I did have a major problem, but the problem wasn't actually mine. And so that drawer of stuff became the impetus for this law. And when I got elected, this law was the very first thing that I took on. And at that first meeting, for anyone who was there, I brought in that enormous bucket of stuff and I dumped it on the conference table. It was a gigantic river that ran up the conference table, and it was made of everything from chopsticks to packets with spoons, forks, knives, salt and pepper in them, to ancient condiment packets. And I will admit to having fished out the hot sauce and kept that in my desk. But it was an enormous mound of stuff. And it wasn't stuff that I ever wanted. It wasn't stuff that I ever needed. And it's stuff that we are somehow convinced is free. And in reality, it's not stuff that's free. It is absolutely never stuff that's free. It's stuff that we pay for through everything that we buy, that our businesses pay for, that undercuts their profit margin and possibly sends our favorite businesses into the red and possibly at risk of closing. I see Gretchen Menzies on this call, who is, a shout out to one of our really excellent businesses who try so hard to do all the right things. And Gretchen is always, always that person. So if you haven't been to the reading room in Katona, head on over there and say thank you to Gretchen for all that she does to try to, always walk the right walk, which isn't easy when you're trying to actually make a profit. This world is making that incredibly difficult. When we put I call it upon request as opposed to skip the stuff. Skip the stuff was, I think, in discussion when we first started putting it together. And I know that was a New York City term that was floating around, but I wanted to focus on this change of behavior, not only for the businesses, but also for people. Because I heard from businesses that they were really willing to do this, but they were afraid that their customers were going to be angry with them. Most of our food businesses are in the business of trying to make people happy. This was during COVID. It was a particularly stressful time for the businesses. Even those who wanted to have all compostable products couldn't get them. I spoke to an ice cream shop that had used only wooden spoons. They couldn't get them anymore. Everything was just so difficult. And so the idea was to set up a law that focused on, I know that Judith talked about all of the waste that we're trying to figure out how to deal with that is harming us, we're all paying for. But in many ways, we're paying for it with our tax dollars, we're paying for it with our health, all the different ways that we're paying for it. But to focus on the stuff that none of us ever wanted in the first place. So the businesses paid for it. We ended up with it. We didn't want it. If you were a crazy person like me, you stored it away someday, hoping someday you'd find a use for it, because the idea of chucking something in the bin that never even had been used once, was so upsetting. Single-use items at their very nature, in most cases, are upsetting, but a single-use item that never had a use at all is the worst of the worst. And so the law was set up to try to deal with that. We didn't want to make businesses pay for more expensive items, particularly because it was that COVID window. Also, there were a lot of questions about a lot of the compostable products. Some of them are definitely not worth their salt and not worth their prices. And I see businesses who spend lots of money on compostable items and then don't even compost them. And that was the last place we wanted to end up in. But we did actually block certain items. And those items are the plastic stirrers, which are in coffee shops or in cocktails, which have no reason to exist. We have alternatives that will do a better job and not end up with microplastics in our drinks, particularly our hot beverages. We wanted to get rid of those. And the splash sticks, those blockers that went in our cups, which were all over the place, which were all, in Starbucks and everywhere else in Westchester County, those two items were banned outright. Everything else became an issue of, if you asked for it, you could have it. I'm sorry. Another thing that was banned outright, bundling. So those plastic baggies that had items in it, you bought a yogurt, you didn't bring a spoon with you, you weren't bringing the yogurt home, you needed a spoon, but the last thing you needed was a knife, a fork, and salt and pepper. Those packets, and then their corollaries in the grocery store when someone had a packed meal to go, where they shove every potential condiment that you might possibly need into that packet, also banned, not allowed in Westchester County. So those were the only items that were banned. Everything else came to the do you want it and do you need it bucket. And if so, you can have it. And I know there's a lot of talk about the fact that the law isn't making a difference, but I don't have that drawer of stuff anymore. I'm sure some of you do, but I don't. And I'm not throwing it away. It's not coming into my house anymore. Now, it's possible the circuit of businesses that I deal with see me coming a mile away. And my husband often says to me, "Oh, please, honey, not tonight. Can you not complain about the plastic stir in your drink tonight?" And so I'll be very honest. I tell him I won't do it. And then I ask to go to the bathroom. And then I go back to the back. And then I tell them on my way. In a very nice way. I'm not interested in shutting down businesses. I want them to still be here to be able to do business and serve us. And as Judith said, this saves money. I will say that the bars, the plastic stirrers in the bars has been one of the stickiest points ever. New businesses coming into Westchester who were not here when we passed the law seem to need some education for sure. And there have been places where the manager has changed and come from another place and has no clue. So I'd love to believe that we had a world where there was a one and done education process. Everyone got the memo, everyone moves forward and does this. But I think the sad reality is this isn't just like any other type of education. We have to keep telling the story. And again, I don't want to suggest though that nobody is complying because that's very much not true. And so, especially when we take a look at someone like Gretchen, who's here on the call, there are businesses out there who have embraced this fully. There are businesses out there who have embraced this mostly and maybe have one or two items that they're still coming up short on. And there are definitely businesses who don't have a clue. But the one thing I haven't come across is a business who doesn't want to comply. Maybe they're just afraid to tell me that fact. So there has been definitely a hesitation on the county side to go after businesses. We don't really want business. We have penalties in the law. The goal is not necessarily to punish businesses, but the law has been in place since 2023. And the time is, now to actually maybe even before now to more rigorously enforce things. I can say in the last few weeks, I've gotten reports that there are definitely letters and visits that are happening. And there are many of them going out every week. And the most important thing, besides that very friendly reminder, as I did my husband's birthday dinner the other night, we had such a lovely meal. We were so happy to be here, but you shouldn't have put those straws in our drinks. You should have asked if we needed the straws, and that would save you money if you hadn't done it. Plus, also, it's the law. So there are the friendly reminders, but most importantly, if you need to go beyond a friendly reminder, then the best thing to do is report the business now that the county is actually reaching out to businesses, sending them letters, doing the visits. Let the county describe the law because it's complicated enough that it may be hard for someone else to do it. And as someone put here very properly in the chat, it shouldn't be the consumer's job. And we all want to have good relationships with our businesses and we all want to support our businesses. Like Gretchen, again, I know Gretchen, you're staring right at me. It's very hard for me not to think of you. So I don't think most of our businesses want us constantly bothering them. So I think it's best also to use that helpline and let me know as well if you want that you've put in that complaint so that I can follow up on it internally. Some of the weird things about the law that people may not realize, we have businesses in the north of the county which do not have wastewater. We don't have water infrastructure, so they are not allowed to have dishwashers. So while we definitely considered having a law that banned all single-use items altogether, we knew that would shut down some of our favorite businesses. For example, the kitchen table in Pound Ridge has to use a mix of single-use items because they don't have access to water, wastewater in the way that they would need to otherwise. So that is a weird glitch in our county. Much of the South has all those resources. My colleagues joke with me, isn't, a sewer the sign of having actually progress as a society? I'm like, yeah, but we don't have them. But if you are in a business that is using single use for that reason, just because you get a plastic cup, if you're sitting down in the restaurant, they can't put a lid on it. They can't stick a straw in it just because you have a plastic cup. So it is really important for all the businesses to understand that again, the law is really about, do you need this item? If you don't need this item, it shouldn't be given. We are all capable of handling a paper cup at a table. It doesn't always need a lid. We're kind of in this weird automatic system where you see one thing, you think the other part goes with it, and that is not necessarily the case. This is a very wide-ranging law. It deals with schools. It deals in certain types of facilities, like assisted living facilities, but not when there's a health outbreak. So that's where you get into these complications, where the Department of Health has these rights to override things in the case of a health crisis. And knock on wood, as I'm actually knocking on real wood, we don't want to see a major health crisis again anytime soon. I'm hoping that kept me within time. I'm hoping that covered enough of the issues, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I see Courtney saying that we're going to cover something shortly. I don't know what it was, but thank you always to WAS and to this wonderful group and Beyond Plastics and the local Beyond Plastics crew for keeping the eyes on this and all of the other laws which have been put in place to try to start tackling what is a big problem. And I think that the comment was made that we have to take it in bites. And at the end of the day, we can only do so much as consumers. We really do need legislative changes on the higher level, the packaging bill on the state level, which once again didn't get through, which Lord knows we need. We are not going to be able to make the change completely on our own. But I think that to the extent that all of us link arms and do what we can do, we can at least move the needle and we can keep educating our neighbors so they understand that they need to agitate our state leaders and our federal leaders eventually when they change to really make the changes we need because this is a public health crisis. This is not just an economic issue. It is also a public health crisis, as Courtney reminds us all the time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Legislator Pierce, for championing this law and just being a really responsive leader and a real champion for the climate and for environmental justice. We very much appreciate it. I feel like I've got multiple county legislators. Emiliano Lai is on here, who I kind of count as one of mine, and you as well. So we've been really
I'm
lucky to
sorry
have
if
a
I
lot
had
of.
realized Emiliana was on here. I would have given her an absolute shout out. She deserves one enormously.
Yes. So we're lucky to have a lot of climate champs. And are they all women or just mostly women? We'll think about that. I do want to invite Gretchen Menzies, who's the proprietor of the Katona Reading Room, which many of us have visited and enjoyed coffee and books and relaxation there, to kind of talk to us from the perspective of a business owner on what are the pros, cons, pitfalls, upsides of Skip the Stuff. So, Gretchen, feel free to unmute and take it away.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time thinking even where to start. We've been in business for a long time. We were like a sit-down cafe until COVID, and then now we are a takeout coffee shop, just so you know. We have a bookstore and a coffee shop. So basically, almost everything that goes out of our place is takeout, which is more unique than a restaurant where you can sit down. So I love the concept of the law. I'm a huge environmental supporter. I would love to get rid of all plastic. I would love to support this entirely. It's a cost savings. It's an environmental policy that I love. In practice, I find it's a little more difficult. Personally, I think that rather than going after the small businesses, you need to educate the consumer. I think that people come in and, we don't give people things automatically, but they look at us like we're insane. I'm handing them a hot cup of coffee or a hot tea with no lid on it, or a drink with no lid that's cold. And it's a conundrum. It's just a bizarre thing that, like you said, they always kind of like go together. Like you got a cup and you put a lid on it. And I would say that probably more often than not, customers ask or they put a lid on. I don't even know if that's compliant, Erica. Is it compliant to the law if you just have like a bin of tops?
Yep. So self-service is always compliant.
Yeah.
So that self-service stations completely work. And it is always legal to put a lid on a walking hot beverage. Period, full stop. So it's, maybe they don't want the lid. It's great that you have the option there. A lot of places just have the self-service station and it's everyone's choice to be able to put it on, but there is no problem with the law with putting a lid on a hot beverage.
Yeah.
Department of Health says, yay, lids on hot beverages.
It's you know,
Especially if it's walking out. The only scenario that would be different is if you had a sit down place and you weren't able to have washable cups and you were using single use cups, but everybody was sitting down. That's a different story. That's not your story.
right.
But the self-service station is always compliant.
Yeah. So it's interesting. But so do you want to ask me a question or do you want to?
We'll do the Q&A later, but like so just anything like that you've already what you have shared has been useful and actually brings up one we've made a flyer to help you so people won't
Right.
act like you're crazy for not giving them a lid.
Yeah. And
Um,
I have a flyer kind of posted, but of course nobody reads it. But and that is helpful. But I just want to impress upon it that like I think we should educate the businesses, but you also need to educate the consumer. And if we kind of had a push in Westchester to tell people don't take it, it would be great if they didn't. I mean, that would save tons of money. It would save tons of junk out of the landfills, and it would be incredible if we kind of help people understand why they don't want to take it. My other question
well,
for you
we've
is, are like the big businesses, like if I go to McDonald's drive-through, like they just give it to you automatically. So are we going after them too? Because they have to be compliant, don't they?
yep,
Absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
And
don't go through McDonald's drive-through, so I don't have that personal experience, but maybe I'm going to have to force myself to do it.
I will tell you that they give it to you automatically.
Okay, so we
Yes.
should be
And
reporting them. Is that
Awesome. So I want to keep us on track for time because
right.
we do, like, I know there's been a lot of questions in the chat where I'm like, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. So I do want to get to it. Thank you, Gretchen, for sharing. And Gretchen's going to stay on for the Q&A later. And also, I'm sure she'd be happy to engage with you in the chat. And I did just want to share really quickly because, and maybe it's the scientist in me, but some data. So this is from the county's waste reduction study. And I think they asked businesses what type of business. So you can see that more than half of the respondents were restaurants or food trucks. And then they asked, what is the area that you think has the most potential for waste reduction? Packaging. They also asked, would your business be open to more sustainable packaging solutions if they were more cost competitive? 66% said yes. Our businesses and our business owners do want this as a solution. So, hopefully that means they're ripe for our outreach and we will be able to get through to them and make them aware because we really think that most of this comes down to awareness and not willing malfeasance. So with that, I would like to pass it off to Liz from Beyond Plastics Lower Westchester, who's going to answer a lot of those questions folks have been asking in the chat about like how to actually do this. So Liz, take it away.
I will try to answer the questions. Hi, everyone. First of all, a huge special thanks to Courtney and Travis for giving us the space tonight, for championing this, and for just kicking my butt and keeping me in line and making sure I keep moving forward. So thank you, Courtney. Definitely wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. So quick question. Raise your hand. I know this is a pretty informed group, but raise your hand if you were aware of the upon request law before tonight. And now that you have your hand up, keep your hand up if you were aware. I have my hand up, but it's going to come down for this part, that the law covers more than the disposable stuff thrown into your takeout bag. Because I had no idea that it was also covering stuff when you dine in, like the straws and the stirs. So if a lot of you are like me, you weren't even aware of that part of the law. I see a lot of hands up, so I guess you are all way more informed than I was. But so we've learned a lot tonight about why we should care, what the law covers. The next question is, how do we turn what we learned into action? So we know that there is a lack of awareness and compliance. Our goal is to educate our goal is to change that through education, which we believe leads to compliance. So we're going to educate the public about the law. We want to educate the business community that not only will this law benefit the environment and our health, but it will save them money. We also want to educate our municipalities so we can identify how to make this an ongoing effort to inform both the public and the business communities. I think that's a piece that's been missing. How do we make this sustainable? So go to my next slide. You've already met Skippy, our amazing Upon Request ambassador, and you will find Skippy on our flyers that you're going to see in a little bit. You've already seen our webinar, he's on there. And the goal is to build connection and awareness of Skippy. And the idea being that when you see Skippy, you will automatically think about the law, and connection equals awareness, and that will lead to compliance. So how do we get to compliance? My next slide, please. So everyone in this room, in this Zoom, has the power to promote this within their own communities. And we've created a toolkit to help, which we'll get to that shortly. But first, how do we do the education and awareness? One, leading a local campaign. We are happy to meet with you in person or Zoom and help train you, your group, whoever you want to work on locally in your area. You can identify organizations within your community for presentations, and we can definitely help you with that list. You can present to your Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, schools are covered by this law. You can invite, we encourage you to invite other advocacy groups, zero waste groups, CACs, scout troops. Anybody can get involved in this. And like I know when the law first rolled out, Erica Pierce actually presented to all of the chambers of commerce in her own district. And that is absolutely one of the reasons why compliance is very high in her area, because she was out there talking to them. So now we need to take that and do that in different parts of the county. So where am I? Losing my spot in my own thing. Talking to your municipality. Talking to municipalities is super important. I actually recently met, I live in the town of Greenburgh, and I recently met with the town of Greenburgh's commissioner and the head of the task force. And as an idea being explored as a result of that meeting is reaching new businesses by including upon request law information when they're issued their building permit. So that's one idea. Hopefully we can actually make that happen, but just start thinking creatively. How can your municipality help make this part of what gets communicated every year? So on to the next slide, and let's take a closer look at the toolkit. So this toolkit is living in a Google folder. The link will be sent to you in a follow-up email, and Caitlin may also be dropping it in the chat, I'm not sure. And it contains, this is still, this folder is still growing. This is just the starting point, but it contains a lot of what you'll need to launch an awareness campaign in your community. And it offers options to take a deep dive by canvassing businesses in your area, or taking a more laid back approach by using the county's non-compliance form and letting them do the work. So for example, I had dinner, it's kind of similar to what Erica mentioned. I had dinner in Rye a few nights ago, not my community, so I didn't bother speaking to the owner or manager. My cocktail was served with a straw already in it, which just totally bums me out. And since I don't really know them and I don't go there that frequently, I went directly to the county's complaint form. I will add that, as Erica said, the county is definitely encouraging reporting noncompliance. This is how the county knows that we as a community value this law and want to see it enforced. So filling out that form will not counteract our intention to partner with businesses in lowering their costs. It's just going to help show the county that there's a problem and that we care. So moving on to my next slide, we'll jump into the toolkit. We've created a script. This is just a little snippet from the top. You can use it or modify it. I encourage you to read the script as it covers all aspects of compliance. One thing we didn't even talk about tonight, takeout. The law requires an upon request button on a restaurant's takeout page. Often, as I'm sure you know, it isn't there. And it's a lot of the times it's not there just because the restaurant wasn't aware that they're responsible for adding the button to their takeout app page. So this is one of a few scenarios that the script will walk you through. And I'm sure as we dive deeper into this, we'll come up with more. So whenever you're educating a business, I will echo again what Erica said. I know we all know this, but please be super friendly and courteous. Most businesses aren't aware of the law, unfortunately. And there are some that are aware. And I have found a few that thought they were complying, but they didn't realize that the law applied to dining in, not just takeout. I found that in a number of situations. And most businesses aren't intentionally not complying. They just don't know about it yet. Moving on to the next slide. We have a folder with a couple of flyers. These are the two main flyers. The one on the left has our ambassador, Skippy, and we encourage you to take both of these flyers with you if you're going to talk to a restaurant. We feel the one on the left, which we created, is clear and really easy to understand. As a consumer, when you walk in, if you see that, you will get it right away. In the green bubble, it lists all the things that are supposed to be upon request only. The yellowy orange bubble has all the things that have been banned in the county. We also have a smaller version of that in the folder. Businesses are actually supposed to hang a flyer alerting the public to the law. So we have, if they want to hang an 8.5 by 11, that's great, or they can hang a smaller version. And you can either walk around with these, or you can send a business a link that they can print out themselves, whatever makes sense to you. The flyer on the right was created by the county. It's a great flyer. It's a fact sheet for the business, so they can see exactly what's covered. It's all spelled out. It's a great tool for them to train their staff. And that's actually one of the areas where we're lacking compliance, is empowering restaurants to train their staff, making sure a manager knows. I was in Popohito in Scarsdale, who was fully compliant, and their manager has a total, it's part of his staff training protocols. He knows that every time he gets someone new, he's training them on upon request. And I'll tell you one quick funny story about the plastic stirrers. He said his bartenders were so happy when they found out that those were banned, because he said they work really hard on perfecting their cocktail recipe. And evidently, if you're a bartender, nothing drives you crazier than seeing a consumer stir the drink that you just perfectly mixed for them. So just a side note, the bartenders don't want it. Next slide. We are working on testimonials. We hope to have some from some of our wonderful compliant businesses in Westchester. Those will be coming soon. We do have in there a case study from Red Bank, New Jersey. So they pass their skip the stuff law. It only covers takeout. And this is one page from the full case study that's in there. And I have this here just to show you the purple column where it says 100%. Those are the businesses that are not compliant, and they are still buying 100% of the cutlery and condiments that they were before. So their expenses have not changed. The blue shows that restaurants that are complying have seen a 94% reduction in their purchase of cutlery and condiments. So that is saving money. And this is a really important piece to share with restaurants. This will save, upon request, saves you money, buying less junk. And if you have Skippy on your wall, you can always direct customers to Skippy, and hopefully they'll start to identify and see it around the counter and realize, oh yeah, this is the stuff we're trying to avoid. So next slide. And last but not least, we have a flyer with helpful links. It includes a Google sign-up sheet for those of you who want to get involved. There's a survey that we're developing that you can give to businesses. And most importantly, a link to, there's a couple other things that I'm forgetting at the moment, but there is a link to the county recycling complaint form, which, so what happens when you notify the county about a business? You go to the link. First of all, there unfortunately is no form dedicated to this law. It's a recycling complaint form. So what does that mean? It means a lot of the stuff on there doesn't relate just ignore the stuff that doesn't make any sense and has nothing to do with upon request. Fill out the relevant information. There's a box at the bottom where you can, for notes or comments, I forget what it's called. And that's where I put down, I was served a cocktail with a straw in it. They had plastic stirrers at the coffee bar, whatever the complaint is, whatever the violation. That form is sent electronically to the DEF, Department of Environmental Facilities. They will send you an email back acknowledging receipt, and they are telling you that they will send out an inspector to observe and verify what you noticed. And then usually the manager or owner isn't available, in which case there's following up with a violation report, which will be sent via, I believe, snail mail. So I have not verified that piece of it. Maybe Erica can help us figure out how we verify if the snail mail has been sent. And again, I know I've heard a lot of people say, I'm not going to rat out or report my favorite business. I don't want to get them in trouble. You're not getting them in trouble. While the law does allow for businesses to be fined, the county is not doing that just yet. At this moment, it's still about education. So anybody you report, they're just going to be educated, and it's going to help spread the word. I do hope that hopefully we start fining, because at some point they should know. So that's it for me. And I'm going to turn it back to Courtney, and hopefully I didn't speak too quickly.
Thanks a lot, Liz. That was excellent coverage. So right now, if for those of you who want, there are links in the chat, but also there are, if you want to use your phone, I'll leave this up for a minute. These are the QR codes that'll take you to the form to get engaged and volunteer on this effort, and then the other link to notify the county of a non-compliance. And we do want to extend an invitation. Our Upon Request Law team is meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Zoom. So if you would like to join and help nucleate an effort in your community or otherwise get involved, you can reach out to us, or Caitlin can drop the link to that Zoom in the chat. And I see we have Erica's hand up. I'll leave this up for one more minute. And then
sorry, Courtney, I didn't realize we're going right back to the actions.
Yeah, well, I just figured since we were just talking about those links, I would put it up. It's all right. So Erica, go right ahead.
I'll be super quick. First off, the mascot's unbelievably adorable. And I'm sure Gretchen will join me in saying we really don't want people to go out and, be very aggressive with our businesses. I don't think that's anyone's goal. I'm sure that's nobody's goal here. If you said it repeatedly, we know that people are struggling to stay in business, and some of these businesses are, in fact, our favorite local businesses. So lead with kindness, and understand that some people truly are trying their best. Maybe not everyone, but certainly many are. And so I just want to leave that thought out there as we try to figure out how to navigate moving forward. The folks who are selling these products to these people really are kind of the more frustrating entities, the ones who keep wanting to send this stuff to them over and over and over again, and make it harder for them to make the choices that are best for all of us. And Gretchen may have something else to add, but I want to leave it on that.
I'm just going to jump in real quick, because I just have to thank Christina, who created Skippy for us. Christina did an amazing job. She created all the flyers, actually. So thank you, Christina, for your awesome contributions.
All right. So, and I do see questions in the chat, asking about all these materials. And yes, we are going to be, if you are here, means you registered for the Zoom, and we're going to send out, and in case you missed it, email from WAS that will have a link to this recording that'll go on to our YouTube channel. And it will also have all the relevant links to the toolkit and download the flyers, all that stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll moderate, and then and everyone feel free to engage in the chat. Renee, go ahead.
Just wondering if there are any Spanish language flyers, the same flyers that you showed before next to Skippy. Is there a Spanish language one available?
Yes, Spanish.
An awful lot of staff is Hispanic.
Spanish and Chinese are available.
Oh, great. So are they,
Well, the business fact sheet is available in Chinese and Spanish. We don't have Skippy available in Chinese and Spanish, but
yeah, but as long as the
definitely,
fact sheet is.
yeah.
Oh, we have Christina's happy to make a Spanish one.
Or
So
she-
we will be adding that to the toolkit. Let's see. Ruth had a question in the chat, and maybe I don't know if Erica wants to take this one. She asked, I would like to know whether the county is doing anything other than following up on complaints.
I'm not
I mean, I don't know what else
certain
they would do.
exactly what the question is trying to get at. I mean,
Ruth, do you want to clarify or come off mute and ask?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to know whether the county is doing anything at all to spread the information to businesses or to consumers, or are they just waiting for people to complain and sitting back and only following up on complaints?
Well, that is an interesting question. I think the fair issue that we all are facing is that we have problems communicating all sorts of things. And our Department of Health, for example, would say that their primary, and much as I would like them to keep sending this out over and over again, that they're more concerned about pathogens and issues that are going to directly impact immediate safety and security. And so I think the hard part in all this is figuring out how to actually communicate effectively with businesses and residents for that matter in a way that they pay attention to and that they digest. And I'm not saying that to try to push the issue off. I think it's one of the most critical issues we are dealing with, whether it's election issues or about anything in the world right now. We have lost our ability to figure out how to properly communicate with people about the most salient and important things. So there are processes where new businesses setting up are supposed to be getting this information. There's stuff that's out there on social media. I've asked the county whether they would redo their social media campaign. There seems to be not a huge interest in doing that for whatever reason. But we're going to keep asking that question, and all of us can reshare that information. It's all out there. Those flyers, the PSAs, the videos that they put together are all still available for us to share, even if the county themselves doesn't want to share them. I think that someone had put in their chat the focus on educating consumers is so important because again, the business owners in many cases really want to be responsive to consumers, and we don't want to put them in the hot seat at odds with their consumers all the time. And so we have a role to play in helping people, especially our environmental groups, our CACs, the folks who are doing the community work, to kind of remind people why this matters. And I will look at more ways that I can do the same exact thing because obviously I'm not, saying I don't have a lane here and I don't have responsibility. But we are, if all of us can work together to kind of help getting the message out, I think that would be great. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's my stab at it.
Thanks, Erica. There were also a couple questions about plastic bags. And so I believe that there is an exception with the plastic bag ban if what you're taking out food-wise is leaky, so that you don't get, soup spilled all over the car. And then Sue had a question about plastic bags at the grocery store.
Well, the
And
plastic bag
markets.
ban at the grocery store is the state law.
Mhm.
And it bans retail stores from handing out any plastic bags for free, whether they are thin or thick. Some stores have been trying to get around the law and claiming that, oh, it's a really thick plastic bag, so it's technically reusable. Many of them are not. We have struggled with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to get strong enforcement of the plastic bag ban. But if you go to their website, they have a very helpful form that you can fill out. And I think it would be good for the county, for instance, and Erica, maybe you can help us with this, is to have a specific, unique form just for the skip the stuff or upon request law and not have it buried in the recycling complaint thing. DEC does have a really good form just on making it easy to report stores that are not complying with the plastic bag ban. And DEC starts with letters, cajoling. They rarely, if ever, have assessed fines. But my worry is they also don't even do the first step of cajoling and warning. We have a volunteer in New York City who's documented well over 100 stores in New York City that are still handing out plastic bags at the checkout. So if you know of any stores that are doing that, that should be directed to New York Department of Environmental Conservation on their website or call their regional office.
Thanks, Judith. Yeah, so Suzanne asked, are there restaurants that strongly oppose the law? Not that I'm aware of. Is there any particular talking points that might appeal to them? And do we have any idea of how much money they might save? So Liz showed that graph that showed how much is reduced, how much single-use stuff that they have to hand out that's reduced. And we are working with local businesses in Westchester to kind of get some case studies that we can share that would document that. So hopefully that will be forthcoming. And I do think the talking points are that it's what consumers want, right? Like how many of us are frustrated when we get home and have all this stuff to just throw in the garbage straight away? Nobody likes that. People do like to feel like their money is not going to harm the environment, right? So we can, by talking with the businesses we visit, we can basically make them aware of what our desires are as consumers. But I think the money savings is a big one, and compliance with the law, right? Like if, the enforcement might not be there right now, but if that changes, they would be opening themselves up to that. So I think, following the law, making their customers happy, and saving money would be the talking points that I would use.
Robert has his hand up, I think. You're on mute,
go ahead.
Robert. You're on mute. I can't hear Robert.
Is it John or Robert?
Robert Whitaker.
John?
Yeah, I'm on mode. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
One of the fact sheets indicated that when businesses did follow the law and asked consumers that there was a 94% reduction
Yeah.
in their use of plastic utensils, which means that a large part of the consumers don't want those utensils, don't need those utensils. They throw them out like everyone here on this this program. So I think they would not get a lot of opposition from consumers if they followed and practiced the law and saved themselves money, because it sounds like with a 94% reduction, most consumers are for it.
Yes.
And I can tell you there's a restaurant that we're talking to. They became compliant about 6 months ago when Kat, who I think is on this call, made them aware. And so they're working on getting us numbers, how much they were spending on all of that stuff. They completely eliminated all of it for takeout. They're not even offering it if you ask for it. So they're going to give us a breakdown of how much they were spending before and what they're spending now. I will say that they were under the impression that the violation fee was extremely high, and that is what motivated them to become compliant immediately. So something to think about, Erica. I know the town doesn't want to issue financial violations, but that is exactly what whipped this restaurant into shape right away. I'm not the one, I don't know where they came up with that idea, but anyway.
John, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I just think that it's a really wonderful program, and in Peekskill we're going to be taking advantage of that toolkit because it's a restaurant town, and I would guess that probably 2/3 or 3/4 of the restaurants don't that do a lot of takeout don't adhere to it. So we're going to do some checking, and then we're going to use the toolkit for an education program. My question was about something that's related but a little bit off topic, which is the county ban on automotive idling. We tried to begin education and enforcement of that just before COVID hit. So unfortunately, that program got derailed. But that's, as far as we can tell, that's one of the major sources of air pollution in the county, and especially in Mount Kisco, which is in a valley, has that problem, and Peekskill, of course, has that problem. Is anybody interested in maybe Watt's going to have a separate webinar on that sometime this summer or in the fall, because
Yeah,
it's
we've done ones generally on air quality, but we keep our focus on waste and so and frankly, all of your municipalities and all of the county's trucks that come to drop waste at the incinerator, not a single one ever shuts off.
I know.
Every single one violates that idling law nonstop. And there is zero enforcement. And frankly, I don't even get worked up about it because it is not even a drop in the bucket compared to what that incinerator is spewing out. It's not even worth
Maybe not for Peekskill,
getting
but
engaged on.
for us, it's a real problem, and we see it every day in the parks and at the schools.
Well,
The
yeah, I
problem
mean,
that
wearing other hats, I'd be happy to organize a webinar
no.
on that, but I do want to keep this to our
I'm
topic
just
because we're
gonna
recording it. So
jump in. I saw a question in the chat about from, let's see if I can read, Frederica. I think my reading glasses are not working as well as they used to. So it talked about the Department of Health inspectors visiting, and that's how a particular restaurant they go to learned about it, which is 100% true. The problem, and Erica can correct me if I get it wrong, is that unfortunately the Department of Health spot checks, the spot inspections. So it's not a reliable way to make sure everybody's learning about it. So I encourage you to sit down with your municipalities and brainstorm about what options there might be on a super local level to get information out.
thanks, Liz. Sue.
Hi. Very interesting, and looking forward to reinforcing it down in Yonkers. But I really do think, as I've said in the chat, that the burden is on consumers, and it's not so much, I think just my personal observations is that people maybe started using reusable bags, and then somehow, I don't know if it's the administration or that they're so fed up that now everything just says, oh, screw it. Because even at the Hastings Farmers Market, which is a lot of very environmentally conscious people, I notice everybody taking plastic bags from the vendors. And I'm like, my eyes are popping out of my head. And so I just want to say that we need to really underscore how important it is to take personal responsibility for your choices. Yes, I think businesses have to reduce plastic. I think restaurants have to. But I really don't think we really can't let consumers off the hook. We have to, and not in a mean way, but just to remind them that one plastic fork is going to spew out plastics if it goes to the incinerator. It won't be recycled, as we heard from Judith, that it's probably not going to be recycled. It's going to go to the incinerator, and that it's going to take, even if it goes to a landfill, it would take eons to disintegrate. So I really love that we're doing the promotions of the law, but it's better if a consumer goes into a store and says, no, thank you, I don't need that. And I really think that's what it's going to have to take. And so let's remind consumers, it's like, be pro-choice about what you take from restaurants.
I think, but I do want to push back on that a little bit, Sue, because I think everyone on this call could never accept another plastic bag, packet of mayonnaise, or spork for the rest of our lives, and it wouldn't help anything at all because it's a systemic problem and it needs a systemic solution. And I think probably Judith can talk about the power and the expense, or how much money the plastics industry spends to lobby this. And they've gotten their money's worth because we now live in this entirely disposable society where it's nigh on impossible to live without generating garbage or accepting plastic from somewhere.
Okay, well,
so I think talking to businesses you frequent is great and is a good way to make connections there, but it's not on it's like saying if you back in the day wanted unleaded fuel and it was your personal responsibility to talk to every gas station in the country about wanting unleaded fuel.
That's not the same. Every supermarket has aisles full of plastic silverware that people are buying for their backyard barbecues. It's a consumer choice. And if you
Right,
look
but
at how
that's
many
not
people are using plastic forks and knives, it's probably more than what restaurants give out. So I don't think it's a small
okay. Well,
amount. I think everything we can do to target PSAs to people individually, that they're making collective choices. It's a very important part of this. Otherwise, I think small businesses are getting a bad rap. They're just really are. I think it's a great law. I want to promote it. But I think the majority of the plastic that people are using comes from buying it themselves. I've seen it in my own building here. I buy bamboo stuff to use at parties, and people say, oh, the plastic is a little stronger. And I'm like,
okay. That's not, we're talking about the upon request law here, which
personal
the
choice.
plastic stuff people buy at the grocery store doesn't fall under that. So we hear you. Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, I originally started this to say that one of the things that are relatively simple, but when I go to a farmer's market, I always have extra bags of all kinds of people want to give me. I'm just thinking that aside from bringing your own, maybe you could talk to the vendors and bring them some plastic bags that you have sitting around your home, because I have tons of them, reusable and otherwise. But to Sue's point, I do agree that I'd be so happy if we could just take the plastics off the shelves. Because now that we don't have the bags to put things in for takeout from the store, people are actually buying bags to line their garbage cans. I don't know about up by you, but we don't need garbage can liners down here. In fact, even our big cans that go out to the waste, they'll take the garbage without a plastic bag. And people always say to me, oh, but you have to, it's required in my town. Then I call that town and find that it's not required at all. There's so many myths out there about plastic and plastic use that if we could just get the stuff off the shelves, it would be wonderful. And by the way, even those little doggy bags, I save my bread wrappers. I save the wrappers from all sorts of plastic things that come in the house. The newspapers come in a plastic bag. I put them in a pile. Periodically, I give them away, and people are happy to get them.
So I'm going to also jump in. I really appreciate Jane and Sue what you're saying, and it drives me crazy as well. And I also think that, as Courtney put in the chat, we've all been trained, not us in this room, but we've all been trained to think that way. And by educating our businesses about upon request, every little bit helps to redirect consumers. If consumers start going to their local coffee shop and all of a sudden there's no plastic stir and they're not automatically getting a straw, people start to notice. Hopefully they're going to see Skippy and all these little things. It's going to take time to change people's minds, and upon request is definitely an opportunity to do that. So I hope you'll all engage and help us spread the word in your own communities. I appreciate that. I appreciate both of you for speaking up. Thanks.
I agree with you 1,000%. It also makes consumers aware that there is a problem with the plastic, which many of them are not even aware of.
Yeah, we've all worked very hard on Packaging Reduction Act and things like that. So we are sympathetic, even if the exact topic of today is not those things. All right, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and it is 8:45, so we did run over. I would like to just share again our action items, and then happy to keep the meeting open for more discussion. So
thank you, Erica, and thank you to Judith for both being here today. I know you guys probably have to leave.
So Liz, do you want to run through these?
Sure. Our next team meeting is tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Zoom. If you're interested in being there, somewhere, maybe Caitlin, you can drop that link again. Thank you, Caitlin. So if you'd like to join, you can sign up there. You can volunteer to get involved. We have a sheet for that. And then right now, if you want, go ahead and notify the county of a business that's not compliant. Let them know about it, and they will reach out and educate that business about the law. And start carrying Skippy around with you. Jump in, read our toolkit. Courtney and I are both available to answer any questions. You can reach us. I think our emails, I can put my email in the chat. I don't know, Caitlin, if you have my Beyond Plastics email. Anyway, if anybody has any questions, please reach out. And please go ahead and click on the link to notify the county about a business that isn't compliant. And don't forget, I don't think we really touched on this. It's not just restaurants, it's food trucks, it's delis, it's convenience stores, it's that Chestnut Market at the gas station next to Benjamin's Steakhouse that has plastic stirrers wrapped in plastic bags. It's coffee shops, it's your school. Reach out to your school and sit down and talk to them about it. I saw a great comment in the chat about teachers insisting kids bring plastic water bottles on a field trip. That is a great area that we should look into and talk to schools about as part of this outreach and education, because that makes no sense to me. And hopefully while I'm talking a mile in a minute, you're all on the county link and letting them know about a place that's not compliant. We do have some exceptions, anything related to seniors and healthcare.
All right. And then I just want to share that we are not having a task force meeting in August. We're taking August off, but we hope you will join us in September. We're going to be doing our annual Youth Sustainability Spotlight and hear from young people from throughout Westchester County that are working on sustainability and waste reduction issues. So with that, I'd like to say thank you all. Thank you to Judith. Thank you to Gretchen. Thank you to Legislator Pierce. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Happy to leave the meeting open.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you to everybody who helped make tonight happen. Jen, Ruth, Midge, who else is still on here? I can't see. Lisa was on here earlier.